All right, guys. Today I'm here with my good mate Ben Wilson, who is in Seattle. Hey, Ben.
G'day, how you going? I should
Good,
sound
man.
American because I'm in Seattle. How you going? I don't know.
Is that's not how they speak in Seattle, though? I'd imagine
No,
Seattle people wouldn't have a thick accent.
they're they're kind of it's Pacific Northwest is the area, and they have a very neutral American accent. So it's
That's what I thought. Yeah.
yeah, it's almost kind of, you can't tell they're quite American compared to like Texans
Right.
who are very y'all and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's a funny place to be. But yeah, based in Seattle. Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, oh, look, when I think of Seattle, I think of Singles, the movie, and that grunge era. Uh, at that time, I really wanted to go to Seattle because it seemed like so many amazing bands were playing in small pubs all over Seattle.
I don't know what
And
they put in the water here, but when you think about Seattle, yeah, I fell in love with Seattle way back in the '90s as well. Me and my brother went to Pearl Jam concert in
there
Eastern
you
Creek.
go.
Did you go to that at Eastern Creek?
No, no, no,
It
I
was
didn't.
huge, and Soundgarden, and it
Uh-huh.
was just like Black Hole Sun, Super Unknown, and Chris Cornell. So I've kind of had a love affair with Seattle for years, and then I started coming here when I started working for a large cloud computing retailer.
Yeah.
I can say work for Amazon in 2013, and just fell in love with the place. And
Fuck,
we moved
2013.
here.
Has it been that long, mate?
I started working there in 2013, and then I moved here in 2016. So I've been here for
2016.
5 years, and we're actually
Yeah.
moving back in January because it's a kind of a weird place to be. America generally is a weird place to be right now, and so our kid is just turned 4,
Yep.
nearly going into preschool. So we're like, no, fuck this. I think we're going to go back to Australia. So it's
All
been
right,
an
so
interesting
it's
place.
your decision because you did message me the other day and said that you're heartbroken that you're having to leave, but I didn't know that was your decision.
Yeah, I am heartbroken because Seattle is. I think I said on message, you'd love it if you think about
Mm.
Seattle. Bruce Lee grew up here. Jimi Hendrix
Hmm.
grew up here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
A whole heap of rock bands came from here, obviously, from the grunge area, and
Hmm.
still do. So Nirvana, being,
Yep.
I know you're a big Nirvana fan. I'm
Huge
more of a Pearl
Nirvana
Jam
fan.
fan.
Yeah.
And if you think about all the organizations that come out of Seattle as well, you've got Boeing, you've got Microsoft, you've got Amazon. So there's something in the water, or
Yeah.
maybe it's the weather or something that just makes it like a really dynamic and interesting place to be, and a really unpretentious place to be as well. I think we were talking about that over chat
Mm.
a couple of days ago. Moving back to
Well,
Sydney,
comparing
that's
it
the
to
one,
Sydney, yeah.
mate. That's the one thing I'm scared about or worried about is the pretentiousness that is Sydney, and no one's immune to it, right? You can be the most relaxed guy,
You,
but you
you
still,
can
if you,
ignore it. You can ignore it. I think it depends on where you work, right? Like if you're working in the city, then it's gonna get to you because you can't avoid it. But if I'm working from home like I do and I'm out at Maruba Beach, it's Sydney doesn't affect me. Like I haven't seen a single person in my area wear a COVID mask all year. I haven't seen one person wear a mask. So if I watch the news, I start to get all anxiety and all that shit. But I just realized just don't watch the news,
yeah, good call. That's a really
you
good
know?
call.
And
Yeah,
it's so
hard to
funny, like
avoid.
just even a few months ago, like everyone that I seem to meet would be talking about American politics. I'm like, why are we talking about American politics? This is Australia. Like, it just
Yeah,
didn't make sense. But it's
it
because
doesn't.
it was all over the news.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything to you. I think it's the culture of outrage. People like to have something to rage against, and
100%.
it's that clickbait thing. People, advertisers want to drive content, and what
Yeah.
drives content better than outrage, right? So nothing's more outrageous than an outspoken kind of politician, like Donald Trump. Not a fan,
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got slightly different views, but in Australia, like how does it mean? Trade relations, maybe, but I think Australia does more trade with China and places like that.
Mm.
So it means nothing, but it's outrage. People like to be angry, that's what
I
kind of
think I
drives
think
it.
that's Sydney too. I think like you and I both love cars. We'll get into that. I know you've got a huge history with cars, and I know you drive really fast and really well as well. But I have been less and less into cars, and a lot of it's got to do with Sydney. It's got
Yeah,
nothing else to do with anything else. It's got nothing to do with the culture, the modifications, nothing. It's just got to do with um, the system, not being able to modify my cars, and then driving around. And every time I see a cop, I have this daunting feeling of fuck, I better peel off. Like a criminal. I feel like a criminal. And it's gotten to a point where for a while there, I didn't have a car and I was just Ubering everywhere. And I started to find it quite relaxing when you're not driving. I mean, I do hate it when you get a bad driver and you start to feel queasy. And I was like, oh my
yeah,
God,
yeah.
this is disgusting. But there's something nice about having a drink or two and just getting an Uber home,
Just not
not
worrying about
worrying
it.
about that. Yeah, but I caught an Uber maybe mid last week and went into CBD to see Karen actually. And this guy was in traffic and driving with so much anger that it ruined my concept of me not stressing out driving and having somebody else drive. But the amount of times he was swearing and swerving and beeping and stuff, I just realized, fuck, I can't even escape it if I get an
So
Uber.
that's a Sydney thing. So Seattle,
Mm,
the difference with driving compared to Sydney, because I drove a lot in Sydney and I
yeah.
drive a lot here with a
Okay.
family. I
Yeah.
drive to work. Um, Everyone's so much more relaxed. Um, there's a thing called zipper merging. So if you're approaching an intersection and you need to turn and you need to merge, just
Yeah.
start indicating. People will let you in every single time.
Yeah.
Sydney, it just gets so much aggro. Oh, you're
Yeah.
pushing in, or maybe it's
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because weed's legal here and half the people driving are stoned. Um, but
Oh, you can
it's
drive stoned?
well, if you get pulled up and you're definitely under the influence, like they can tell,
Uh-huh.
like you're slurring
You
your
can,
words and you're bloodshot in the eyes, then they
right.
can pull you in. But if you've had like a cheeky joint and you're driving somewhere and you're relaxed,
Yeah. You're all
then
right.
yeah, you're all right. It's a little bit like drinking, right? And most people don't, because weed's legal here. Most people don't abuse it and rip
Right.
15 cones and try and drive
Right.
a car. So here it's more. It's like the difference between American coffee and Australian coffee or Italian coffee, which is and Greek coffee, which is the roots of coffee in Australia because we have so many fantastic Italian and Greek immigrants. Over
Yep.
here, coffee it's drunk like tea. It's really really weak, and they
That's
drink a
how
lot
it's
of
meant
it.
to be. That's how it's meant
Yeah,
to be. Like I had a mate who opened a cafe in Darlinghurst, right on Taylor Square, and he did all his research, went to Italy, and did proper research on what coffee should be like. And he found that it was, like you said, more like tea. It's not taken like a drug like it is in
no,
Sydney. And so he was selling this coffee that was probably the most accurate Italian coffee you could get in the city, and people were coming back straight away saying, can you make it stronger?
yeah,
And the people here use it as a drug. Like,
yeah,
I need
really
my coffee,
strong.
I need
Two
my,
shots espresso, drink it. Now my eyes are really wide open. Whereas here it's just
yeah.
like in the office we have drip coffee and you just drink it all day. It's just really
Yep.
relaxed. And so
Yep.
I think weed's a little bit like that. Like I've got lots of friends who smoke here, and they'll just have a sneaky joint, of an evening, just even half a one or edibles,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Oh,
just it. Rather
edibles.
than
Fuck.
yeah, rather than well, edibles here are really weak, and because they're
Oh, okay.
prescribed, you can
Uh,
tell how much you get every single time. So people will just have like a little gummy and just be happy with that, and that'll put them on like a bit of a buzz, and they can still drive and be comfortable. Whereas I think back to Sydney to people I've been around with who smoke a lot of weed, and it really is to get super stoned.
oh, it's
It's
not
just
even
stoned.
weed, man. It's not even
Yeah,
weed. Like what you get in Sydney is this hydro kind of, I forget what they call it now, chronic. So it is designed to just knock you the fuck out. It is so heavy. I don't know what's in it, but it's just I remember I did a shoot once with a girl and she asked if she could have a little bit of weed and she wanted to have a rest before she needed to catch a plane. So I'm really close to the airport. So she thought she'd have a rest. And for like 3 or 4 hours that she was in the bedroom trying to sleep, at the end of it, she said, "Did you fucking lace that weed with some sort of drug? Have you drugged me? Because I was just seeing Homer Simpson in the room. She was hallucinating.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And yeah, and it's like I was smoking an ounce of that shit a week. So I lost my brain. And I wouldn't have lost my brain if I was smoking weed in Byron. Like
No.
if I was just smoking like homegrown natural bush bud, I'd be
Yep.
fine.
Or prescribed. So here
Yeah.
we've got
Clean weed.
dispensaries all over the
Dispensaries.
place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I've been in to kind of check them out and have a look around.
Mm.
And yeah, they sell organic weed, right? Weed
Yep.
that's been grown. They know the strength
Yep.
because they test it. And it's like you know exactly what you're getting. And they collect the tax dollars as well. So
Yeah, that's right.
the money goes back into healthcare and mental health for people who develop problems with weed. So it's like
Mm.
a circular
Cyclic thing.
circular thing that's really like a positive experience. So yeah, there's another reason why you like Seattle, but don't visit
And
at the moment
well,
because
well, I
COVID's
haven't.
everywhere.
Oh, COVID shit. Well, I haven't smoked weed in 2 years now. So,
That's awesome.
um, yeah, and I don't think I'll ever smoke it again. Like, I definitely won't smoke it to the degree that I did, because I was definitely abusing it. Like, I was smoking bongs. So, a bong is already like it's a hit. You know,
Yeah,
I might as well be fucking putting needles in my arms. I mean, it's a hit. It's not
yeah,
a social thing. Uh, it's not it's hard to integrate it into your life. It's more of a like, oh fuck, I'm gonna smoke this, pass out, wake up, smoke it, pass out. And I think
yeah,
that's what drove me crazy, was just like not having any kind of routine or sleep pattern and just
yeah.
being in this zombie like state.
Or
So
using weed to artificially give yourself a sleep pattern, right? Like knock yourself out and wake
yeah,
yourself
yeah,
up.
all of that. And just to make it feel like you're doing something too.
Yeah,
Like for some reason, like, when you're high, you're not like, it's funny because the only times that I actually used energy was when I would run out of weed. And mate, I would travel major kilometers. I would just make it there. And like when I've got weed, I can't even make it out the front door.
yeah, right.
But like if I ran out of that shit, I'll fucking do anything it takes
Yeah.
to get some right now. It was the biggest motivator ever. so yeah, it
Motivator
was
slash
not good.
motivator slash demotivator.
Yeah, totally. We should probably, anyone who's listening, we should probably talk about how we met actually, which is through a mutual friend of ours, like a good friend of mine, and you were dating her
Yep.
and clicked with you straight away. I don't know what year that was. Do you even remember vaguely what years they were?
Vaguely, it would be past 2000 because I remember I was with another girl in the year 2000.
Year
So I
2000.
think
Okay.
it was probably early 2000s, like 2002, 2003.
Fuck, that's amazing. Hey, like we've come a
Yeah,
long way since then. Holy shit.
absolutely. Yeah,
That's nuts.
it's a mega journey and lots of other relationships. But I don't know why. Like I've just always remained kind of connected to you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Well,
it's
I think we
because you
clicked, we got along.
Yeah, yeah, and you're quite prolific on the internet as well. And I work on, work in tech, so I've always kind of stayed kind of connected there, and done the old random drop in occasionally when I'm kind of passing Maroubra, which you probably
Totally.
found really annoying. But
Oh, that was
I don't know.
amazing. That were wild times for me because that was like a party house. But uh Ben back then was totally shaved head. So not what you're seeing in front of you right now. Really long hair. You look like Chris Cornell's going on here. Bit of
Mhm.
Seattle. But the runner, you were the runner. Like I know we got into the same things. We were into cycling, we're into cars. But one thing that I saw first out of you was just how far you could run and not even bring any water with you, or just like you had these tiny little shorties in your singlet. And I'd be like waking up hungover, half stoned, half drunk, and you'd be literally at the front, just running along, and we'd start talking. You'd be like, "Oh, dude, can I hassle you for a glass of water?"
See, that shows how open-minded you are. If I was hungover and waking up, and someone came to my house looking like that, I'd be like, "Get out of my house."
Oh man, that
Yeah,
was so cool.
I Yeah, I started running a little bit before that, and it's funny that we should talk about because I started running to give up smoking. Actually, I was working
Yeah,
in
right.
an office job, and it was a really small office, and it was on the second floor. I used to go down, habitually, like every 2 hours, to smoke a dang, and then
Yep.
one time I could hear the phone ringing, and each of our phones were programmable. It was like PABX, so I knew
Hmm.
my ringtone. We could change the ringtone. If it was 2000ish, it was probably Simpsons or something. And I stubbed my cigarette out, and I ran upstairs, and I sat at my desk. I looked at my phone ringing, and I said, "I'll catch my breath before I pick up the phone because it could be a client, right?" I was selling
Right.
HP printers of all things. I wonder how many printers people sell these days. Helton, do you have a
Yeah,
printer?
right.
I don't have a printer. Who prints, right?
I
But at the
know.
time, we were selling a lot of HP printers, and I just watched his phone ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing, and the little light on it. And I was trying to catch my breath after running up the stairs, and I just couldn't. Like I just couldn't catch my
Mm.
breath, and it was a full 90 seconds of the phone ringing, and eventually just went to voicemail. Um,
That was your wake up
and
call.
I knew I was like this, like it's because I'm smoking cigarettes all the time.
Yeah.
So the very next day, I stopped smoking cold turkey, and I was a pack a day, which isn't huge, but it's enough.
That's a lot. Pack a day's a
It's
lot.
enough. That's enough, right?
Yeah,
And
that's a
if
lot.
you look at the number of cigarettes in a pack, you'll see they're very cleverly designed. So you smoke a pack a day. It's every 90 minutes. The next day, yeah, I pulled on my really bad sneakers I'd been mowing lawns in, and just like random track pants and whatever t-shirt I had. I just tried to run around the block, and I couldn't. I couldn't, Justin.
Yeah,
Like I could run like 100 meters, because everyone can run. Like if the bus pulls up and you've got to get the bus, or your
sure.
Uber's in the distance nowadays, and you see it and you're like, I'm going to run, I'm going to catch it. Everyone can do that, right? And I could at the
Mm.
time. I was 20, 25. Everyone can run for a short distance, but any longer distance than that, and you run out of oxygen in your blood, and you have
Yep.
to intake oxygen, and you have to breathe, and you have to have healthy, strong lungs and a strong heart. And so I couldn't. So I
Yeah.
just walked, and then when I recovered, I started running again. And so for the first probably 6 weeks, I ran between telegraph poles, and telegraph poles are usually about 80 meters apart. So run 80 meters and then just walk 80 meters.
Yep.
Sometimes 160 meters. Some two times I'd walk for two telegraph poles, and I just kept on doing that, day after day after day after day after day. And sore legs, so I got some better sneakers. Like I actually went and got some proper running sneakers rather than just like cross trainers I'd be mowing the lawn in.
Yeah.
And there was one day it took 3 months. There was one day about 3 months in when it was raining quite heavily, and I had a cap on, and I ran all the way down my block, all the way down the other half, and I was going to stop. So I'd run
Mhm.
probably about 500 meters. I was going to stop, and the rain was pouring down the side of my cap. I remember distinctly the feeling of the rain dropping off the side of my cap. I was like, no, fuck it, I'm going to finish this run. And I just kept running and got and did like just 1 kilometer, which sounds like nothing, but I ran the whole kilometer at a pace and
Mm.
stopped. And I think that was the first time I had like a breakthrough that I could do it. My body could do
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and then I just
Yeah.
built on it from there, built on it from there, built on it from there, until at my peak, I've run two marathons. I've run an ultra marathon, run jogs ultra marathon, which is 100 k's. Marathon's 42
That's insane.
kilometers.
100 Ks. I mean,
Yeah,
even cycling to Wollongong, it's not that hard, but like running 100 Ks would be because you can't roll. Like on a
no,
bicycle, there's moments where you can just roll and just
it's
get it back. But
constant motion.
well,
And so
how was it? How was it quitting smoking? Like I mean, I'm a smoker, so I don't smoke anywhere near a pack a day, but um, it still pisses me off. It's like when I wake up in the morning, I can smell it on me, even though I brush my teeth before bed. It's obviously, it's almost like the shaft of a fucking bong inside. I'm sure inside my body is just there's some shit in there to a point where when I wake up in the morning, I can taste it, and it's like, okay, this is not good. And I know that I have to quit cold turkey. I just know it. Like everything that I've ever done has been like that. I've just gone, move on. But smoking seems to be a really difficult one.
I think, yeah, two
Nicotine.
things. Two things that were hard. Yeah, two things happened. One was I had to replace it with something, and
Yeah,
so
exactly.
um,
Right.
that running was good. So I think everyone I talked to who's quit has replaced it with something. Often it's food, often it's
Food,
weed.
but probably fitness, right? Because I remember the times where I was obsessed about mountain bike riding. I would quit smoking for all those times because you can feel it in your lungs, and it's like you get that extra burst of energy when you have this extra bit of breath. Like I
It's
just
just a
remembered like one ride, a few weeks into riding again. I remember literally something breaking inside my lungs. I'm like, oh my god, I can breathe that little bit more now. It just went
yeah, just a little
and
bit,
a
a
little
little
bit,
bit, a little bit deeper. I know that exact feeling.
yeah, and it just
Yeah,
went, oh fuck, the cigarettes is just fucked off, and I've got this extra bit of cavity and breath, and I remembered that quite distinctly. So that must be almost like the when you did that first run where something changed in your
yeah.
head and body, where you're just like, okay, I can do this now.
I th-
I've
I think
persisted
it's
enough for it to
I
make a
think it's a
change.
combination of both. I think it's yeah, body and mind. Mind
Mm.
more, I think, but body definitely. Um, it's just too hard to do both. I don't mean like running along with a cigarette in your mouth. Although I've
Well,
seen that.
did you go cold turkey, or did you find that you still every now and then smoked a cigarette?
I had a few slip ups, and it was all when I got really pissed, like when I got really
Yeah,
drunk.
people
So
people people talk about that all the time.
20 being 25, like obviously I'd go to the pub and just
Mm.
smash 4 or 5 beers or whatever, and then I'd just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna smoke, and I missed it. And you probably, if you want to quit, or people want to quit who are listening to this, you're probably gonna hate this, but I
Mm.
still miss it. Right, I haven't smoked a
Yeah,
cigarette since I was 25 years old, and
yeah.
I'm 44 now, and I still, particularly when it's raining and I'm
Mm.
somewhere cozy, like in a cafe, I'm still like, oh, that'd be nice to smoke a
There's
ciggy. So it never
there's
leaves
something
you.
nice about it. There's something romantic about it, and the whole James Dean thing, and you
Totally.
feel cool, and you if it's warming, and it's something to do. It's fidgety. It's a combination of so many things, and you get a buzz out of it too. So
Yeah.
when I was on like antidepressants last year, I wanted to get off them ASAP because I started to feel better. So I'm like, I don't want to have this chemical shit in my head, in my body, you know. So when I saw my GP, I'm like, Doc, I'm so gonna get off this shit. He goes, you know, sure, we'll taper it down and we'll work on getting off it. And I saw him half a year later for cigarettes, and I said to him, you know, Doc is like a friend of the family, so he's close. So I'm like, man, I really want to get off smoking nicotine. And he looks at me and he goes, oh, that's very hard, Justin. And I'm just like, wow. So getting off meds is possible. Getting off nicotine, oh, that's really fucking hard. I'm like, oh shit. That's when I realized mentally I started thinking about nicotine differently.
Yeah. Isn't
It,
that
it,
crazy?
it
Like,
is more hardcore than chemicals coming from like antidepressants and sleeping
yeah.
tablets and shit. Like a doctor literally straight up just goes, yeah, I can't help you there. You're gonna
So,
have to
so
try
something
and,
that's been
you know.
designed to modify your brain and make you feel better, specifically custom designed, a chemical for the receptors in your brain, is easier for him to say, oh yeah, just cut down and take this,
Yeah,
than nicotine. That's yeah,
yeah,
that's intense. Yeah, it's a full on drug,
yeah.
man, and
Well,
it
that's
stay
what
yeah,
woke me up. So ever since then, like that was sort of mid last year or something like that. Ever since then, I've got it in my head like, yeah, it's not good. You know, like I
yeah,
would love to stop. I think I would miss it as well, but not knowing me. I'm knowing people like us. We just get into the next thing. Like you said, like
yeah.
you gotta fill the hole with something. So,
Just replace it,
um,
and
yeah.
just walk. I injured my back a couple of years ago, and I couldn't run for a time, which was a really really hard time for me because I've run consistently fairly long distances for 20 plus years,
Mm.
and I found it very very.
Wait up, I just lost you there for a sec. Wait. We've lost audio.
Are you back?
Oh yeah, you're back. Yeah.
Okay, good. I found it so difficult when I couldn't run, and I remember the feeling being very much like giving up smoking. Like it's an addiction that I've
Yeah.
replaced with
Yeah.
another addiction, and that
Yeah.
addiction is, hopefully healthier. But it is, yeah, it's still mental.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I wanted to talk about running in that you a long time ago, man. This would have been like 20 years ago or whatever. But you told me that you can't run with somebody else. You have to run alone, and that always fascinated me because it's obviously this thing where if someone runs with you, you have to change the way you run. It could be your pace. Maybe their pace is slower or faster, but then you'd have to change something about how you're running. And I just wanted to hear from your perspective, what was it about running alone versus running with someone? And
I
why
think
was it better? Why was it better running alone for you? I've lost audio again. Have you lost visuals?
No, I've got you.
Okay,
It's
cool. Yep.
just a long way away. I think I've grown out of that a little bit, but at the time it was because I wasn't a very good runner, and I think I didn't. I needed to run at my own pace because I would speed
Mm.
up and slow down depending on the energy level that I had. Um, and I think because my lungs were so damaged from,
Yeah.
yeah, I had a lot of issues trying to control my breathing and speaking, and a lot of people I'd run with would just
Talk.
try and
Yeah.
talk to me. I'd just be like,
Yeah.
fuck off, I'm dying here.
Yeah.
So in later years, as I got better, I was able to kind of run with more people, and became kind of more and more social. I think as
Okay.
well, one of the reasons I was running, I enjoyed running so much, is I had a lot of anger over a previous breakup that I hadn't got
Mm.
over. Kind of struggled a little bit to express myself when I was running, because I was basically angry, kind of running from that anger. And
A lot of
and
people,
that,
a lot of guys use sport to get the anger out, right?
yeah, I
It's
think
a
it's like part.
it's a common theme. Like, I mean, it's probably the best thing to take anger out on, some sort
I
of
think it's
physical sport.
our makeup. Like we're very fit,
Oh, this audio is getting really choppy.
is it?
Yeah, that's all right. We'll see if it gets any better, or if it gets any worse, I might have to stop it and start it again.
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think we're very physical beings, and we don't have particularly working an office job. Like, that I work for the man. I've always worked for the man. Like now I'm working
In
for
IT, so same thing
in
with me.
IT.
You and I both in front of screens all the time. Mm. Yeah, I'm losing your audio. Nope, can't hear you. It's all right. I can crop these bits out. I can't hear you at all. Plug that back in. Technology.
How's that?
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can hear you again. Good.
Okay, good. Yeah, so because we sit at desks all the time, there's just
Mm.
no opportunity to express ourselves physically. And so I think, yeah, you just when you've got emotions to express, you can't express them at work. You
Yep.
have to be polite in meetings and all those kinds of things. And then you can't be physical because you're working all day. And so it's just a chance to just express yourself and just run and run and run. Some of the best times I've had have been running along the coast there between Bondi and Maroubra in
Yeah.
storms and all kinds of weather, just, almost screaming at the weather, and no one else is out there.
Yeah. It's a pretty decent distance, man. Like I even struggle walking that. So it's not an easy walk. And like you
We
said,
should try
it
running it
depends on
because
your
it's
weather
faster.
too. Well, I've thought about it, but I still think I've been thinking about it too. And this is one of the things about me at the moment in this age or this time. I feel like I'm more patient than I've ever been in my life, but that patience isn't necessarily a good thing. It's almost almost gotten to a point where I'm not in a rush to do anything. So where I have lived my whole life thinking life is short, at 45 I'm realizing life is quite long. Like there's a lot more of it to go potentially. So, when people ask me questions like the same old questions like, you know, are you gonna is Zen gonna have another shop again? Or when are you gonna take the GTR out for a spin or whatever? I'm just like, there's plenty of time.
It's
So
true. Yeah.
I just gotten to a point where I don't look at uh, anything having a deadline. Like nothing, the word deadline doesn't exist for me. Um, Pacing myself to a point where even editing photos, I used to love trying to shoot one day and deliver edits the next day. But I find that I might burn out doing that, so I'm even slowing that down. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Like it's one of those things where I want to get fit again. I definitely know I have to, but I just I don't have any hardcore like priority on it, which is, it's not a good thing. Like I think I should just get on the bike basically and just start riding again, even if it's around the block. Like that's how you started, right? Started running around the block. Like my block is a really nice area. It's like there's fresh air everywhere. So I really should just get on the bike and start riding again. But I don't know.
Yeah.
This
Or,
yeah,
or walking. Like walking's
or
good. Like
walking.
walking's a good old man sport. And you probably do a lot of walking anyway. If you're not driving very much, catching Ubers, like you're probably walking from place to place. Walking's good. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
I
I'll
know what you
get
mean
there. Look,
about not.
yeah. I mean, well, you've got two kids, so it's a little bit different, right? Like you have obviously have priorities and you work really hard as well. But look, I think it was really interesting to hear about running from your perspective because, like, I know I'd love to talk cars with you, and I know we could talk cars all day and all night, but the running thing is more fascinating to me because it's more about like it's the Zen thing. It's about finding a zone and getting in a zone. And I think um, with cars, yeah, you're a good driver. I've been in the car with you when you've when you've driven, and our shared friend would always tell me about how crazy you would drive along the coast there, coast roads. Um, and I can talk about cars all day with people as well, but running is like it's something different.
Yeah, it's mental, I mean, that's the thing that, I think you asked the question, like, how do I do it? Or how do I do it? Or how do runners do it?
Mm,
It's all
mm,
mental. Like, it's all mental. It's just about, pushing yourself each time and then telling yourself not to stop and switching off. Like, I never run with headphones. Like, a lot of people run with headphones and music playing, but I
yeah.
always found that kind of distracting. So even now, like, I'm out for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'll just go out and just be alone in my thoughts. And that's another thing. Like, when do we get the
Yeah, right.
opportunity to do that? Particularly nowadays with social media, it's like,
Mm.
when do you have a chance to be completely disconnected? Like, I don't even take my phone with me. I never have. So yeah, Zen's a good word. It's about just sort of listening out, and it hurts, like it still hurts. Like, it's not something that gets easy or doesn't hurt or isn't difficult. Even if I just
Mm.
go out for half an hour, it's still like a painful half an hour of having your
Yeah.
feet and moving your arms and breathing hard. Um, but it's
I find
heaps.
that even more impressive that you don't have the headphones, the technology, and all of that. Like people are, you know, almost like trying to find excuses to bring technology along for the ride with everything. Like, with bicycles, they all shift gears automatically now and all this kind of shit. It's like it's it's almost like trying to complicate shit. The
Yeah,
person who has a shitty bike probably gets a better workout
yeah.
than
I mean,
someone
it's
who
like,
has like a cushy fucking thing, or even like electric powered bicycles. Like, Like it's just getting to a point where how can we use this technology to complicate something and make it more interesting when in essence you've kind of stripped it right back
For
to its
sure.
bare
Like
basics.
I've got mates who nerd out about running stats and
Yeah.
use Strava and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like, no judgment. That's cool
Right.
for a lot of folk, but I think for me that's just I find it distracting. It's like there's nothing. I can't do it here in Seattle because it's fucking freezing most of the year. But just being out, I'd often just go out in just my my shorts and like no shirt and just shoes and socks, and that's it. Like just to have no possessions and just to cruise around. It's really freeing, and no social media and no one emailing you and no work kind of
That's it.
restrictions. You're just kind of out there, just sort of jogging along.
Just not having a phone.
Yeah,
There's like some people that would say that's dangerous because then if something happens, but fuck, if something happens, like there's someone next to you with a phone. Everyone's
yeah,
got a fucking phone.
yeah.
Everyone's got
That's
a
right.
computer on them. So, have you heard of the Iceman? I forget his real name, but he's the guy who climbed Everest with shorts on and
Yeah,
nothing else.
Wim
Will
Hof. Yeah,
Wim
Wim.
Hof?
Yeah,
Wim, is it?
Wim.
Yeah.
Wim.
I just saw a podcast with him on with Jordan Peterson and his daughter, and I found that pretty fascinating. Like he's obviously a guy that's like larger than life. He's got a lot of energy, and it's very easy to throw him in with all the other guys selling snake oil and stuff. But when you start to look at some of his feats, and then when he started to prove to scientists that it's not just him, it's his technique. So they were saying initially that, well, you're just a freak of nature. That's all it is. It's like you are just a freak of nature. Then he set out to teach people how to do it and then do the same testing and stuff that he did. And turns out that it can be taught.
Yeah, and that was. I mean, I don't know if you read his book, but he started out of trauma. His wife
Right,
passed
exactly.
away,
His wife. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
and he had two kids, and he was like bringing up these two kids, and
Mm,
he just started experimenting with his body, running. He runs a lot, or used to run a
right,
lot,
right.
and then just his endurance, underwater cold water endurance feats are just amazing, and some of it probably is genetic, but it's got to do with the mind as well,
Yeah.
after running a couple of marathons. Like I'm not like an amazing freaky runner. I know plenty of people that can run more and longer distance than me. But from my perspective, it's mental. It's about just deciding to do it and then doing it. And that's the same with a lot of things in life, like the work that you do, Justin. Sitting down and concentrating for that much time to put together a piece of artwork,
Mm.
or a story, or design something. It's all mental, right? It's mental
It's
endurance.
100% mental, man. Like I think the physical stuff in relation to the mental stuff is probably easier to explain. And like I used to do the Sydney to Gong ride all the time. Initially, when I was young, like yeah, you got boundless energy, so everything's exciting. Every single person that passes you or that you pass is just another buzz, and it's just another minute, right? Whereas at some point, I just thought, oh fuck it, I want to do it this year, and I didn't train and I didn't do it on a bike that I had used very much. So geometry and setup wasn't quite right. And we all know how important that is on your bum if you're going to do a long ride. Like even the seat angle is so fucking important. And I was with a whole bunch of mates, and I was a smoker, and we got to the hilly bits of the national park where the climb sort of started, and they're usually my favorite bits when I love overtaking everybody. I just feel like I'm fucking Lance Armstrong and I'm overtaking everybody. And I just realized I couldn't keep up with my mates at that point. And part of it was ego and part of it was my head. I just tried my best. And then I just said, guys, just go ahead. And at that stage, I was so cramped up that I didn't think that I could make it for the other sort of 40, 50 Ks to go. And you're 100% right. It is totally mental. I started to just get into this zone of looking down at my feet on the pedals and just going just left, right, Justin, like right, left, right. And I knew that I had to make it to the finish line. There's no way that I was going to stop. And there was nothing left of me. Physically, I was in pain. the bike didn't fit me right. It was just all wrong. But mentally, it got me across the line. So I think I know exactly what that is. And I wouldn't expect everyone to be able to do it until you do put yourself through something like that. You know, it's almost like climbing Everest or whatever. Like you hear of people who aren't prepared and stuff like that. And I mean, at some point, you probably can do some really bad harm to yourself if you were too headstrong. You know, Everest, you'd probably die. but but yeah, like there's something about being headstrong like that where you can pull something out of the hat, you know, like you can somehow find that extra little bit. I think it's a really good trait to have.
I was never like that with work. You know, having kids has taught me to be like that at work. I used to just do the hours, and that meant
Yep.
I had time to like fuck around and, you know, just relax and have a coffee and kind of start things at my own time. Because I always knew that if I had a deadline or something I had to deliver, like a document or, you know, a project or something, I could
Mm,
just work all night. I could just put in, you know, 100 hours in the last week and get it done.
sure.
But
Mhm.
having kids, you can't do that, right? Because you've got the responsibility, and you want to be with them, right? Like it gets to
Yep.
5, 6 o'clock, and I want to come home. You know, pre-COVID, now I'm working from home. I'm home all the time, but I want to come home and see my daughter
Yeah.
and hang out with her. And so it's taught me that you a little bit like that, you know, when half of it is mental, it's just starting. It's just like, well, I've only got 3 hours and this is a task that I know I can do in 3 hours if I just start it and just keep going and do it. Um, and it's similar to running. It's like, I know I'd run that far before. I know that I can, you know, make the distance in that time. So I just put my shoes on and just kind of go, you know, similar to you doing the gong ride. You're just like, I know my body's going to do it. My body's going to do it, right? I
Yep.
have to just look down and just keep going. And yeah, I thought that too. Like, I'm not going to die. I remember my first
Yeah.
marathon first half marathon when I was aiming for a goodish time. Um, I remember like 5Ks from the finish, I was really hurting and really trying to do a good time. And I said exactly the same thing. I was like, well, I could slow down because that'd feel much easier than like my lungs burning and just at this pace.
Yep.
Or I can just keep pushing and try and get a good time, and I'm not going to die.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I mean, it's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's also self-confidence. Like, you know, it's not ego speaking anymore there. Like, ego fucking left the building ages ago. At that moment, it's like you are embarrassed that I was embarrassed that I couldn't keep up with my mates, you know, and they were like, we'll wait for you. We'll wait for you. I'm like, no, don't fucking wait for me. That's even more embarrassing. Just fucking
Yeah,
go. I'll see
yeah,
you at
it's
the
like,
finish line, you know?
yeah, it's almost
So,
mental. You're like, just no, go guys. We all know where we're going. I'll see
yeah.
you. Yeah, I'll see you down there.
But you know, with the I know we're still stuck on running, but what I like about the solo sort of thing is that there is no ego. And yeah, sure, there's people that are posting on Strava like, oh, fucking did this. Like, I mean, if you're not within those circles, that doesn't mean anything anyway. Like, you know, they post up a whole fucking Strava thing and they did this many kilometers in this amount of time. I'm like, I don't know, is that good? I have no idea, you know. And um what I didn't like about getting back into cycling fairly recently was just the amount of egos, man. Like, we're all on this WhatsApp group. Everyone's like got the fucking latest gear, and people have got the buying new bikes all the time, and then they're modifying them with the most expensive parts. And they're it's just it's the boys club thing again.
Yeah,
And that is something that was so unattractive to me that I stopped riding altogether. And it's sad because it's like, you know, I really enjoyed for a while there getting back into riding. And, you know, initially I was really open-minded. You'd go to the car park at Loftus, and then, you know, you see all these different cars you never seen before, and people be getting their bikes off the racks and setting up. And it's this nice feeling of, I'm going to ride with some people that I've never ridden with, and I'm going to talk shit with people. But after a while, it just, those vibes just I realized like they're not there at all. It was more of a competitive kind of like people sussing me out or how I'm writing or something like that. Like, I just like, nah, this, I don't like this vibe.
there's always someone faster, and there's always someone slower. I mean, like as I get older, like I get slower, and there's a loop I do here around a lake. You'd love the natural beauty of Seattle, mate. Like there's lakes and mountains, and it's just a beautiful place to be. There's a lake I run around, which is only like a 5K loop. And so often I'll be like running around that, doing a respectful kind of pace. And then like a young mum who's like 23 with a jogging stroller will like zoom past me. And I was like, okay, it's pretty humbling, right? But it just doesn't matter. Because at the same time,
It doesn't matter.
There'll be someone who's, taller than me and looks fitter than me and is younger than me, who I just like breeze past going up a hill, right? Because I'm kind of guy. It's just like ego. I think is it's a hard thing. And again, no judgment for people who are into that. Like people who are into that, and I've got mates who are really into
totally.
Strava running and Strava cycling. That's cool for them, but that doesn't work for me. Particularly if you want longevity. Like if you don't want to get injured and you want to run or cycle like into your 40s and 50s and 60s, which I hope to. You just you don't want to be doing that at all. Just like shoes and gear and all that kind of stuff is unique for each person. Like each person's experience is kind of unique. Like I run in weird shoes, Justin. Like it took me a lot of years, but I essentially run in thin weightlifting shoes.
Wow.
Because I'm quite neutral, so I don't roll to one side or the other. And so there's a weightlifting brand of shoe that I tried, which is 0 drops, so it has no cushioning really. It's about 3 millimeters cushion all the way through. And if you look at any running sneaker, like it's up to 12 millimeters. It's like quite thick foam.
Right. Yeah.
And some people would love that. Some people like running ultra cushion shoes, like kind of Yeezy style, 15 mil of foam under their
But some
heel.
people like the barefoot style as well, right? Yeah.
And some people actually run kind of barefoot. I've read a couple of books about that, which is what inspired me to run in shoes that were kind of thinner. And if I run in shoes that are thick, I end up getting injured. Like I end up getting sore calves and sore knees. And it really
they're not made for your body. So
and my cadence as well. So that's the biggest lesson I think I've learned in running. Like if you're going to start running, or anyone's going to start running, or anyone's into running, is the most important part for me. That's made a huge difference and kept me injury free for the last 10 years. Has been cadence. So the number of times your feet hit the ground. It's really, really important. I went to a running coach, and he measured the number of times my feet hit the ground. He said you're hitting the ground 160 times a minute. Which is kind of average. That's how most people kind of run or jog. And he said you need to increase that to 180 beats a minute, which doesn't sound like a big increase, but it is. And you feel really self-conscious when you're doing it. Particularly as the way I learned to do it was I got a clip on Metronome. You play guitar and you play other instruments. Metronomes. There's things that tick from side to side. You get digital ones, which are square. They're about an inch or so thick. And they clip on and they go beep, 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 beep. I got one of those and made it beep at 180 beats a minute. I clipped it to my hat.
Every step.
and tried to step every single. I look like a complete weirdo. Can you imagine this weirdo running around like Circular Quay in Sydney, because I lived in Potts Point. Beep, 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 beep. I did that and I increased my cadence to 180 beats a minute. And that had made a massive difference, because it means that I'm lighter on my feet. I land underneath my hips, so I'm not overloading my knees and my ankles. So I'm running in a more balanced way. And that was the single one thing that kind of changed everything. I think cycling, you're more of a cyclist than I am.
So cadence is huge. Cadence is massive for cycling. I mean, the whole concept of people, sometimes when you're riding with aggressive people, you can see them in the wrong gear and they're cranking so hard and their calf muscles are bulging out. I'm like, dude, that's not sustainable. Like they're just mashing. And it's like, man, cadence is when you can do a really slow, gradual uphill climb, but be spinning those cranks at a point where you're not cranking so hard down and up on your pedals. It's just about keeping this steady rhythm that'll get you to the top without burning out. Whereas you see people in the wrong gear and then they're cranking, and then as soon as they burn out, they have to hop off and walk the bike up. So I've always concentrated a lot on cadence with cycling, like right down to testing different crank lengths. And you know, you need to find, everyone's different, so you need to find the right setup and the right gearing to get that cadence. And then, you know, sometimes it fucks out because you go to another circuit somewhere else and they've got a different hill, and then you realize that the setup that was perfect for one trail might not be great for the next. But I do love that word cadence, and I think it was like a couple of weeks ago where I did a podcast with someone and talked about that word and using that word for just living in general. When you can get to a point where you're running a cadence with your life that doesn't require you to do that extra heavy pushing, because that's what causes burnout and causes that inconsistency. Whereas when you have this nice cadence where every bit of energy that you put in, you get something back, something nice to strive for.
I think that's true in relationships too, right? So
Yeah.
I've got 2 kids now. So I've got a
Yeah.
toddler, she's 4, and I've got a baby who's 6 months old. He was born six weeks ago, so 6 weeks old.
Damn,
and
freshie.
Super fresh. And the cadence with my wife is, I noticed the other day, was we can swap between the two of them for putting them down at night time or meal times and those kinds of things,
Yeah.
without even thinking about it. So if we don't really, it's not, I don't just look after the toddler and my wife looks after the baby. If the baby's fussy and wants to be burped and the toddler is having dinner, we'll just switch out like interchangeably. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm changing nappies, sometimes I'm not. I'm looking after the toddler and we're going to the park, and I think the word I think of when I think about that in the relationship is cadence. I think it's not just with kids, like any relationship. Sometimes one person takes the lead on one thing, one person takes the lead on the other thing. And it's just
Yeah.
cadence that
It really is, isn't it? It's almost like when you're in a relationship with someone, it takes two to tango. Like every time I've gotten relationships wrong and I reflect back on it, it's because you're right. There was no cadence at that moment where it went wrong. It was way one-sided, and it was not anywhere near. But like, it's hard to have the perfect balance because it's probably impossible to keep that up. But you have to look at the bigger picture, right? Like you have to say, okay, well, if someone's down, then I can feel. But then when I'm down, they can feel, and you got to have that. What I like about your example just then is it's so situational right now, but you're not getting good at the baby thing because the babies are going to grow and then there's going to be other problems and stuff like that. But it's the cadence thing that you're getting good at, where you can adapt as the kids get older and you have all these new experiences. It's the concept of it, the overall umbrella concept of it, as opposed to specifically getting good at something.
Yeah, and not
with the
score
kids. So-
keep, like not be like, what's my job to do
yeah,
this
yeah,
because you
yeah.
did it
Right,
last
right,
time.
right.
Because in the end,
Right,
it all
right.
comes out in the wash.
Yep,
Over my wife
yep.
agree with me, and not being resentful, right? And it's and that's hard.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Yeah, Yeah, I'm a resentful person, and I tend to be generous on the outset, but then when people take advantage of that, I start to get resentful, and then no one did it to myself but myself. So it's just, we all have faults, right? So
It's so hard. Yeah, particularly in relationships, particularly with kids. You're like, I did the dishwasher 6 times in a row now. It's like,
yeah, it's
where's
the
the other
little.
person? And it's like, you know what? The other person's doing something. The other person's cooking dinner, right? Or the other person's taking the kid to the doctor, or it's, and you can't score keep. You just have to
I
keep
just
that
find it hard
cadence.
with, yeah, but I find it hard with just people, human beings in general. Like last year when I was in a business with 3 mates, it was like these all 3 of these mates are awesome when I wasn't in a business with them. Once I was in business with them, it was like, oh fuck. It's
That's why
just
I work for the man. That's why I work for the man, because when you work for the man, there's
yeah.
rules and there's business, and they're not mates. They're not real mates.
And it's not
And
your
so,
business. It's
no,
not yours.
yeah, and if you go into a meeting with 5 people, even if you work really closely with them, there's rules about that meeting, right? And there's no emotional connection to those individuals. And it's like we're all gonna, take notes in this meeting, and there's an agenda, and there's an outcome that we can get at the end of the meeting. And when the meeting's finished, it's done, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're your own business or being in business with mates, that's like emotional connections
super
and
emotional.
relationships. That's I don't know how you do it. I mean, I'm a big believer in
Well, I
working
don't do
from
it. I don't do it. That's the thing. Like, I caught up with my ex-business partner last week, and he was talking about how, yeah, in business, you have disagreements and all that kind of stuff. But then I think he got his bluntness from me, because he just said to me, "Oh, but yeah, you are fucked. Like, it's way easier without you around." And I'm like, "Oh, fuck, thanks a lot." But I get that, because, I'd be so hot and cold. Like, one day I'd be like, "I've got it. I'm going to do that. I'll do that." And then the next day I'd be like, "Fuck that. I'm going to fucking do that." It's the bipolar kind of like driving my business mates up the wall. So
Yeah, and how do you work with that? That's like that's intense. So
yeah,
that's probably one of the reasons why you work for yourself. Because if you work for me and
exactly.
you were like that, like if I was working with you, I'd just be like, "What is this?" No, like you have
I
to.
know, right?
It's your job, but that's that's
Yeah.
that's the difference. I think that's why
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
an
yeah.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. I've never been a money maker. I've always been an ideas person. So I think the word entrepreneur comes attached to someone who potentially makes a lot of money. And I think I've created businesses that always have been potentially lucrative, but none of them ever were, because they really existed only to make me happy day by day. So um, I'm not the kind of person. I think I'm I might be coming to the realization that I fear commitment. Like, I've never really run a business forever. It's always like on to the next thing. Um, I never feel responsible for continuing a business, even though it's successful. Um, if my heart's not in it, I feel like I can't continue it, because there's something about that, um, putting myself in a position where I try to be as real as possible and try not to fake anything. So if I'm like, no longer into VW Golfs, for example, and the forum's doing really well and selling stickers and making money and getting new members all the time, I can't, I don't know, I can't be at the wheel anymore, because yeah, it's just one of those weird things. Like, other people would be like, "That's fucking stupid. Like, if it's making money, it's doing well, fucking keep going." But I'm one of those people that'll sabotage an entire community because I'm no longer into it. So it's a weird thing that I do, but it's like, in order for me to be more successful as an entrepreneur, I probably would have to open up and work with people and let someone take over the money side of things. And, I'll just do this stuff and you do all the other stuff that I don't like doing.
I think it's kind of natural. Like that's like the only reason that I'm committed at work is because there's rules and goals, right? And if those rules and goals weren't there, then I wouldn't be as committed as I am, right? My boss says to me, "We have to do this by this date," and so I have to, because then I'll get paid, right? So
I mean,
I think
are you still continuing that job when you move back to Sydney?
yeah. So I got a new role back in Sydney. It's slightly different, but it's along the same line. So in IT, IT management. So for Amazon. So yeah, it's the same deal. It's a natural progression of kind of what I've done,
Right.
sales and management and in tech, and IT and cloud now. So working for Amazon Cloud, and then doing the same in Sydney in a slightly different role, more Asia Pacific focused.
Yeah.
So with some travel, which is weird because I haven't traveled for a year because of COVID.
Yeah.
In the US. So yeah, that's the goal. So again, working for the man, but with rules and structure and an office and working hours, and goals, right? So you talk about commitment. the reason that goals at work are structured the way they are is so everyone's committed. It's like you need to achieve this by this
Yeah.
date, and this is the goal that you have, and you have some flexibility in that. So
Well,
I
you
think
just got to be you got to be a team player. That's all it is. Like I'm savage when it comes to team play. I'm just really shit at it. So, um, that's one thing that I always thought one day I'd be better at it, but I just don't think I'm going to get better at it. It's just one of those things. So I'd rather have myself to blame, and that's it. Nobody else to blame. So I think I put myself in that basket. So, but when you move back to Sydney, what are you going to drive, or are you going to drive at all?
So yeah, I'm definitely going to drive. And in fact, you'll be happy about this. My mum's already committed to give me her Jazz. So it's a
Yeah,
J
it's
JD JG was it JD Jazz? Yeah.
look
See,
there's something about driving this Jazz for the last couple of years. Like, by the way, I've never washed it since I bought it brand new. I have not washed it once. There's
nice.
all sorts of spiders living on it, and it's a new model Jazz, but it's the dirtiest Jazz on Sydney roads. And there's something about it, maybe about like me being 45 and slowing down, and like I'm never in the right lane. Like I almost purposely sit behind a bus, and when it stops to pick people up or drop people off, I don't even like, there's a gap. I could swerve right and take the right, and I could get around the bus, but I'm like, I wonder what happens if I just sit here and hit the brakes, listen to the radio, and just not ever be in the right lane. Like maybe this is my permanently in the left lane car.
And it just doesn't matter. Like you're going to get there, right? And if you listen to a podcast, just crank the podcast up one notch and just sit back and
You said it. You said it. You
that's a
said it
jazz
just
driver.
then. You said it just then. I'm gonna get there. Like I'll get there 2 minutes later than if I was zooming in and out of the left and right lanes, and I'll have more fuel. Um, I'll feel more relaxed.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
it's more like teleportation than ever for me. Like it really is an appliance for me.
Is it auto?
And yeah, it's full auto. I don't even play with the paddles. It's got paddles. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Yesterday I got overtaken by the same model Jazz, but it was lowered on some nice bronze. It was black, and it was lowered on some bronze, like raised wheels with an exhaust. And I just laughed at him. Like I don't mean to be mean, but I just went like that's what I used to do. But
Yeah,
it's like
such a weird thing to do. Like, no, again, no judgment. That's cool. If like
right,
whoever's doing that into it.
exactly. I was there. I've done that, but I couldn't help but just shake my head and just go, "That's fucking stupid." But I just couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. Like each to their own. It's okay if you don't get it. I totally understand it. But I was at that very moment so glad that I was in the stock Jazz that's never been washed, that was kind of invisible rather than
You just don't think about it, right? It's funny.
right.
It's funny you should say that because I remember distinctly, this is years ago, probably about 10 years ago, and I was buying like a Mazda 3 or something. Which is
Yeah,
a
I
good
remember
car.
that.
And
I remember that.
I said, oh, should I do something to it? Because you were right into it at that point. I think I don't know what you had. I think this was after your golf phase. I think you may have had a Jazz with a big engine in it or something.
K20, yeah.
A K20 engine, which is crazy, right? A K20 in the Jazz. And you said to me, no, keep it stock. It's like you knew inside that I would have a more relaxed, better time just keeping it stock, And you're right. Like, it's like the cars, particularly Japanese cars, are designed that way for a reason.
Yeah.
I've got two Japanese cars here in the States, and they're both stock as rock, and I love them because I've got the Honda equivalent of yours. It's a Civic. It's a Civic Coupe. It's an 8th gen, and I'm exactly the same. I've never washed it. I've had it for 3 years. It's had 3 owners. It's done 60,000 miles. It's not the SI model. It's the EX, which is below the leather luxury model, but still has sunroof and cruise control. And I bought it for $4,000 American, which is cars are cheaper here anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's auto, 5-speed auto, which I didn't even know they made yet until I had a modern car. 5-speed auto. And I don't even think about it. And I do exactly the same thing. When I drop my daughter, particularly my daughter's in the car, I go to
Yeah.
daycare and I'm in the lane that the bus is going to stop in. And the bus puts on its hazards. I'm just like, fuck it, just put my podcast up. Or if we're in the car, listen to kids' tunes, put the kids, wiggles up a little bit louder so my daughter can hear it, and just enjoy spending time in the car because I don't care. Like I do not care at all. And the other car we have,
that's the thing. And like, I just remember like, you'd meet car guys. That's why talking about running is so cool, because it's such a personal thing. Whereas talking to certain car guys that know how many Newton meters of torque a car makes, some supercar makes, that then they're never going to own, like, but they've just got all this data in their head of what all these cars that are out there and upcoming cars can do. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have headspace for that. Like, I just don't right now. I don't have the space for it. It's not useful to me right now.
No,
So
it's cool. Like you can respect that, and it's like again,
yeah.
like cool. Like they're super into that.
Yeah.
My other car's a stock. You'll love this story of how I found it. A stock Subaru Outback Limited. So it's got leather, but it's 2006. It's an old car now. And when we came here, we went to the Subaru dealer because everyone in Seattle drives a Subaru because it snows here a little bit, and
That's so weird.
It's really weird. Yeah, it's almost law that every second house has to have a Subaru. There's
Is it because there's ice on the road?
bit of ice and snow on the road, and I just think it's that kind of place. Dave Matthews, he's from Seattle. He's someone else who's from Seattle. He drives a Subaru Outback, first gen. I love the wheels on the first gen. Anyway,
is Outback named because of Australia?
No, I don't think so.
No, hey, it just sounds so Australian though.
It's very Australian. So when we went to the Subaru dealer, all the Subarus, like, it was super expensive, like on leases and those kind of things. I'm like, oh, what about these second-hand lot? And they started showing us Highlanders and Tiguans and those kinds of things. And I saw this Outback over in the corner, and I saw that one. It's gold.
Love it first sight.
A gold car, perfect for a 40-year-old man with kids. And he said, "Oh, they just came today. I don't know much about that." I said, "You got the keys?" I looked inside it, and it only done 40,000 miles. So again, less than 60,000 Ks. And he said,
"That's low,
yeah. Have a look." He's like, "Oh, we haven't priced it yet." And I said, "Well, give me a price. I'll take it." And it's been the best car. So I'm gutted to get rid of them because, like you, they're two appliances that we never think about. We just get serviced once a year and just get in and just kind of drive. So in Sydney, we've got the Jazz, and I might get something slightly interesting. Like I was thinking about a Miata on MX-5.
Didn't you buy a K car at some point? Did you get like a tiny little?
I did. Yeah, I got a Suzuki Cappuccino because
you did buy a Cappuccino, so you did buy one.
I did. So the 25-year rule, you couldn't import cars until they were 25 years old. The Cappuccino just slipped into that because it was 91. And so I bought one of them off a dealer, and impossible to get serviced. And I took it to just like a local mechanic, and he checked it out and said everything was fine with it. And he even checked the timing belt, so you know where this is going. And so I drove it for about 6 months, and the timing belt went, and it's an interference engine. And so basically the valves crashed into the pistons, which meant the engine was trashed. And so I thought about it because I just had, my daughter was just in daycare, and I had to drive to daycare. I was thinking, I can't drive to daycare in a K car. It's too small, even to put cars into. I could spend another $3,000 on importing an engine and putting it in it, or I could just let go. I bought it for $5,000. So I thought, you know what, $5,000 sunk cost, and so I just sold it to someone for parts for $2,000. It was really fun, but I think that was the last time I was going to get a fun car because it was just
Yeah.
too much hassle. Too much hassle.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's going to be fun, it should be reliable too. You know, that's just that it's not fun when it's not. Like that's the thing. Like the cappuccino is turbocharged, right?
Yeah.
I think so. You're already like turbo. I mean, I know turbo cars are everywhere now. Like every Golf seems to be twin scroll or some sort of complicated thing, but turbos wear, man. Like they just wear. Like and
Yeah.
especially if people are going to boost them up and shit. Like it's just. I don't know. It's not the smartest. It's not the smartest decision. Like that's why like when you're saying MX5, it's like they're really reliable, like super reliable. Nothing goes wrong with them because they're just so mechanical. Very simple, and there's so many parts out there for them as well.
Yeah.
So,
I won't modify it. I'll listen to your advice. Stay stock. And just
even stock standard, they have everything to adjust camber, caster. It's just so good to have a car that's a proper sports car where you don't need to buy suspension components in order to get a more aggressive track setup. You could just take it to a wheel alignment shop.
Yep.
So much respect for those little cars. They're really cool.
Yeah. And I'll definitely get an MB, not an NA, because the NA prices
Oh yeah, no,
crazy.
yeah. And NB's more powerful as well. Anyway, I mean the engines have a little bit more oomph and a bit more refined. But yeah, NAs have become you're starting to get that tax, right?
Yeah. So probably that, and then I will stick with the Jazz for a while, and then we'll get something. I want to get another Subaru. I think I'm Subaru for life. They just drive so differently. It's the boxer engine. The engine's so low, and with full drive, they're really, even the Outback, which is a big car, they're just so chuckable. They just feel really planted. They just
that's cool.
They're really nice. So yeah, probably get an Outback when we get back. Definitely not the Sydney wanker car. The big BMW X5.
Yeah,
That's what I'm dreading.
But it's just like that, like I don't see any interesting cars on the street anymore. Like for a long time now. When we created the JDM style tuning forums, and even when I was running the VW Golf forums, every day you'd see modified cars on the street. It's just the way it was. And it just seems like overnight it's just all Mercs and Audis and BMWs, and you very rarely see an old car at all. Like I saw a Ford Laser recently, I saw a Mitsubishi Magna, and it's sad that that's what excites me now. I'm like, fuck, there's a Ford Laser.
Yeah.
Or a Sigma. I saw a Mitsubishi Sigma. I'm like, whoa, a Sigma. But it's
that is old.
These aren't people that are into cars. They're just randomly some dude just still driving an old car because he can't afford an Audi or a BMW or something. But it's like all the Skylines are gone. I don't know, they're gone. I don't see any EG Civics. I don't see any DC2 Type Rs, or I don't even see DC5 Type Rs. Like I don't know where all the cars are.
Yeah.
Like you go to a car meet, they're still there. But in terms of everyday, I think even the car guys probably own a European hatchback for their daily driver, and no one is driving these things anymore. So it's just really strange. Like when I go overseas and go to countries, I love seeing cool cars on the street.
Yeah.
But yeah, you come to Sydney and you're just going to see a shit ton of European hatchbacks.
Basically. I think it's the Sydney, it started with lockout laws. I think it's the Sydney police presence. It's getting harder to have something different and older anyway. I think it's a combination of that and just keeping up with the Joneses, like just keeping up with your neighbors, right? Your friends have a big European SUV, so you should get one too, right?
Otherwise, those SUVs,
Otherwise, you're putting your kids' life at risk because they're not safe, and it's like, well, no, like a modern-ish Japanese sedan or Outback or something. It's a pretty safe car, right? They're pretty big and they're pretty comfortable. It's like it's.
But it's like you said with the Outback, it's still a driver's car. Whereas these European cars, if you're not a good driver to begin with, then you go and buy a European car, you're driving so much worse because the car just feels twice as big. So you're driving so slow through corners because you're scared of like running into somebody else's lane. And then you're running people over at pedestrian crossings because your A pillars are so fucking thick that you can't even see if someone's right there crossing the road. You can't reverse park them because you have no idea where the wheels are. Your doors are so thick. I see people driving Mercs so badly, like so badly. And I don't think it's necessarily, it's almost like the Volvo joke, you know, like Volvo drivers are bad, but it's probably because the cars were just so solid and so heavy and they were boxy that people found it hard to drive because the car was just big and clumsy. But
you're disconnected from the road. You just don't know what's going on. And then add phones into the mix too. Like the number of people you see on phones in Sydney, like when they're driving, it's just just freaks me out. You know, Seattle's very different like that. Everyone drives an older beat up car, I think, because of the weather. Oh, and they just got rid of emissions and vehicle safety checks. And so as long as a car runs and a police officer doesn't think that there's anything dangerous about it when it goes past them, you can drive
blowing
a car.
black smoke.
You can drive a car until the wheels fall off. So yeah, I see some hilarious cars with, you know, tail lights smashed out and they just put, you know, orange tape over the indicator, all those kinds of things.
You see that's all gone in Sydney. Like it's just because it's so strict. But like I just know, like if you put these bad drivers out there in big Euro cars into a Honda Jazz, they'd be such better drivers because there's so much better vision. The doors are so thin that you know where the extremities of the car are. Like you're not going to have a hard time parking. And I don't know, it's not necessarily a shit ton of bad drivers. It's just that they're not used to the cars that they're in.
Could it be that they're younger as well when we're getting old?
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, like even when I'm in the Jazz, like the amount of people that drive stupidly around me because I'm in a Jazz, like they're cutting me off and they're doing stupid shit. And it's a different perspective, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
Well, it would be good to catch up with you face to face though. So you're thinking what, January, February?
Yeah, so we're moving back in January. This is going to be interesting. So we fly back middle of January. Then we've got quarantine for 2 weeks. This is why Australia has done so well. Everyone who flies back had to go into a hotel. They get picked up from the airport in a bus that's just for them by drivers in PPE gear. And then you go to a hotel and they get locked in a hotel for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll be in a hotel for 2 weeks with my 4-year-old and my, at the time, 3-month-old baby. So that's going to be intense.
Great way to reintroduce yourself to Sydney. And
mate, it's going to be really, really intense. But at least I don't have to cook every day. My friend just did it, and I talked to her. She does all the cooking, and she's got 2 kids. And I asked what the food was like, and she said, "I don't know. I just think that it's good because I'm not cooking it all the time."
Yeah.
She was so I don't know. It's just things like shepherd's
you're
pie.
not allowed out of the room at all, like not even to the gym or the wow.
No, locked in. That's why Australia's done so well. Like over here in the States, in where I am in Washington, 1 in 10 people have COVID. In some of the southern states,
that's a lot.
Like Texas and Florida and some of those places, 1 in 5 people. So can you imagine that? You go to a house party or you go to the supermarket or you go to work.
You're guaranteed there's going to be someone around you in your radius that has COVID.
Totally.
Yeah, it hasn't been a thing here, man. It really hasn't. And, you know, even from the very beginning of it, when they had like visiting laws and stuff like that, I still had mates over and stuff. Like, I don't know. I just sort of almost refused to believe that it existed. And in my head, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. But yeah, I know I'm wrong there. Like, I know so many people have died from it. But I haven't let it really change my lifestyle. But then again, you know, like apart from traveling, like I do miss that. I would have loved to have gone to Japan at some point recently, but you know.
I think in Australia that's a good decision, Justin. I think in Australia it's been minimal, and so it hasn't affected people's lifestyles.
It hasn't been as bad as what we see in the, you know, and that's the thing about the news, man. It's always full of shit, right? Like the news is always depressing. Like, like you said, it's there for people who like to complain about shit to make their lives feel better. But
Outrage porn. That's what I call it. Outrage porn. People like to be outraged because it makes them feel something. They're like, I want to be outraged about that. So, yeah, nothing to be outraged about in Sydney with minimal COVID. I'm looking forward to it, mate. We'll
We'll have to catch
go
up.
for a run, and you can give me some more advice on boring cars to drive.
All right, Ben. Well, all the best, mate. Have a good Christmas and New Year's.
Thanks, you too, mate. Enjoy
we'll
the chat. Really good to connect, and
for sure, man. Hopefully your hair will be down to your knees when I see you in real life.
Longest it's been in about 20 years. I feel like
It's funny
even with the grades.
Well, it's funny because when I see you, I always see you without the hair as well. Because it's not covering your face, right? So I see both, and it just goes in and out between long hair Ben and short hair Ben. But it's been good to see your face, bro. Awesome, and good to hear your voice as well. Mate. All right, mate. Stay on the line. I'm just gonna hit stop recording now, but stay on the line for a second. Guys, if you made it this far, sorry for the technical difficulties, but that's life. And Ben, I'm not gonna leave any links in the description field below because you're not really promoting anything. But I hope you guys got something out of Ben's running stuff, especially, which I really enjoyed talking about. So thanks, Ben.